Fala amigos do Alma, tudo beleza? Aqui é o Leandro Isoppo e hoje a gente veio trazer uma entrevista para vocês com o lendário guitarrista e vocalista Mark Farner, que fez parte do Grand Funk Railroad, que foi uma das maiores bandas de rock que já pisaram no planeta. Dentre vários assuntos, ele conta sobre a sua história no Grand Funk, sua carreira solo, sua vinda aqui no Brasil neste mês de abril. Então foi um papo bem legal, uma das melhores entrevistas que a gente fez. Espero que vocês gostem.
We are here today with Mark Farner, one of the greatest vocalists and guitarists that ever walked this earth. He influenced an entire generation of musicians, and we will be talking about his tour, solo career, and of course, the Grand Funk Railroad years. So it will be your 5th time here in Brazil. How was the reception at the last shows, and what are your expectations for this tour?
Well, my last shows, a lot of love. I felt the people really wanted to show me how much they appreciate the words to my songs and the fact that they rock. It's love. It's the truth from my heart that God gave me to speak, to sing in the song. And people show me nothing but respect and adoration. And that's exactly what I'm expecting this time, honey.
Wow, that's great. And so the set list, I bet that everybody is very excited for it. What should we expect for that?
Well, I feed off the audience. You know, when the audience gets excited, I get a little taller. I react to how the audience is feeding the band, and my band is so ready to rock Brazil. I mean, we are ready. We were practicing right here, and the boys and I talked about the last time when we were in Brazil and Rio de Janeiro. The audience, the audiences in Belo Horizonte, very good people, soulful people, family people. We felt like that we were one of you.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, the band will follow, or you catch some musicians from here to Brazil, or you bring your musicians from there?
I'm bringing my musicians. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Who will be with the band today?
My drummer is Hubert Crawford. I got him. He was playing drums with James Brown.
Oh, God.
And I saw Hubert. And I said to my son was on the road with me. I said, Jason, what do you think about Hubert? Jason said, I think Hubert's going to be playing music with you, Dad. And I said, how do you know this? How do you know this? And he just had a feeling. And I'm so glad he had that feeling, because Hubert is, he's a soulful guy, and he plays what we refer to as lead drums. He's not just back there keeping time. He's leading us into the next change, the next chord change, the next guitar lead. He sets it up. He cues you. And then when it's his turn to sing, like, we're an American band, he's back there singing lead. And the boy sings good, and he sings background music, and he sings lead music. He's a wonderful drummer. And on bass guitar from Detroit, Michigan, Paul Randolph. I met Paul when I was recording with Alice Cooper for the Breadcrumbs album. And we were in Detroit at Rust Belt Studios. And it's the first time I'd ever seen Paul. I was really enjoying his bass playing. And then we got into the overdubs for vocals. And I'm standing next to this guy, and you know, I'm not really tall. My hat makes me look a little taller. But I look up and there's Paul. He's 6'3" or 4", and I'm 5'7", you know. And he's singing these very high notes. And I was amazed. You know, I appreciate good singers. And so when we got done recording, I said, Paul, where do you live? He says, I live right here in Detroit. I said, man, would you come and play bass for Mark Farner's American band? He said, yes. He says, you know, my dad was stationed in Germany. He was in the army and he was in Germany. And every time we got in his car, he stuck Grand Funk Railroad in the radio or put a CD in and played Grand Funk Railroad. He says, I bet you I know all your songs already. So it was like, wow, a fit. And Mark Hoyt on keyboards, he's a great singer and keyboardist. He's played with so many great people, rock artists, so many you can't name them all. Very great. But we all have one thing in common. We love God. God is love. We serve love, and we will not serve any other master. It is our privilege and our duty to each other to serve love and to sing it and embrace it and live it with our lives.
It's a great lineup, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do we have any possibility about a new album since almost 2 decades from the last release for the people?
Yes. As a matter of fact, we have a new album almost ready to release. It will be released this spring, maybe late May, at the latest early June. And it's got some rockers. It's got some serious rockers. As a matter of fact, we said, you know, I bet you the Brazilian people would love to hear some of our new music. We're going to put some in the set for you guys.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
About your solo career, we have divided it into 2 periods. The first one is the Grand Funk Railroad, which is basically an station of the band. And there's some unreleased material from the Grand Funk. Compose everything from the beginning, or you had some leftovers of the band?
No, I composed 92% of all the Grand Funk music, and more than that. of my solo music, I composed. I had a little bit of help from people writing. There's a song on the new album called "The Prisoner," and "The Prisoner" was written by 2 friends of mine in the Detroit area, good brothers, and it's got some horns on it. It's a little bit different rock, but it's a soulful, funky, more R&B type, you know, with the horns, really good. And then you know, I had Mark Slaughter, who is the producer of my new album, and he is singing with me. He is playing guitar with me. He's playing bass. He's programming drums. I just finished a vocal before I came here to this studio. I finished a vocal on a track that he was waiting for, and he's on tour right now with the Monsters of Rock tour on on a cruise. It's a rock cruise ship, and he's going to be surprised when he opens his email.
It's a breaking news because we love Mark Slaughter. We love it.
we are very intent to like the glam metal, the hard rock stuff, and it's very wonderful to see how he's doing such a new type of music together with you, because this new thing that you put in the music, and lots of and new instruments that aren't used to in the rock genre. This is fantastic. That it's very, very cool to know.
Yes. Well, Mark Slaughter and I are both a little Native American in our bloodline. And we look at each other as brothers. We are very, very much alike. He farms. You know, he's got chickens. He grows things. He's got a garden. I farm here in Michigan. He farms in Tennessee. When I go to his place, I feel right at home, and we get our work done together. He's got dogs and cats, and I got barn cats. They never come in the house, but and we had a dog here, but he passed away. God rest his soul. I'll see him when we get back to heaven. He's there waiting for us. That's right.
Oh, I bet he missed you. I bet you were a lovely family.
Yes.
We talk about the first period of your solo career that was in '70s, but we got second period of your solo career was in '80s. You became a Christian, yeah?
Yes, I played.
Were raised Christian.
But you know, I had gone to some churches. And I thought, you know, this is not what I know God to be. This is when they pass the plate and they're taking money. And I did a little research because it did not feel good to me. Because the church should not be about money. The church should be about love. And to do things motivated by our hearts, not motivated by financial reward. So I did a little research, and every church, well, I can't say every church, but I would say 99% of the churches in America operate under a 501c3 tax exemption that they get from the Internal Revenue Service, which the banks, the Federal Reserve banks, have this Internal Revenue Service to tax the people. But when you give your authority of your ministry over to men, that is so wrong. Man is never going to be God, as hard as he might try. As hard as he might try to rule over the people with a weapon that makes us afraid. God doesn't rule like that. But the churches that give into this and they beat the people up, I say they beat them up. I felt assaulted when they passed the plate. I took a man one time who gave his life to the Lord. He just got out of prison. He came to church with me, him and his wife. When they passed the plate for money, I saw him open his wallet. He had $2. He took both of those dollars and he put it in that plate. And he was happy that he looked over at me and handed me the plate. I was next. I put our envelope in there. Then the guy says, up on the podium, he says, well, the pastor and his wife are going to go on vacation, and we're going to pass the plate to take up a little donation for the pastor and his wife. So here it comes again. And this man who just got out of prison already gave everything he had. So he couldn't put anything in there. And he gave me the plate and he hung his head down like he was embarrassed because he couldn't put the money in the plate. Then they said they had an evangelist there, and the evangelist was doing this great work and everything. We're going to take up a donation for the evangelist. And they passed that plate again. And that guy, he felt so bad, he never come back to church. And that's what really turned me off. I said, this is not about money. This is about God. And God is about love and setting us free. We are getting set free from those who put this burden upon us, this debt consciousness about financial things. So the church, any church, and I don't care what country they're in, any church that's about that finances and passing the plate and collecting the money, they're not about God, not the God that I serve.
You're right. And talking about that period, why did you follow the AOR or melodic rock on your record? We talk about the Just Another Injustice, Wake Up, they sound that sonority about the 80s melodic rock stuff. Yeah, why did you follow that line of your music?
Well, that was some producers that were with this Full Moon, which was a label that I signed with, and they said, we have the producers, and we're gonna make sure that your album is out, and it's not gonna cost you because we have our own producers. And it sounded good, but then when I got there, it was more I didn't bring my musicians in. We played to this track, and then he brought a drummer in. I said, man, this needs real drums. You guys aren't thinking about putting this thing out with just electronic drums, are you? And so anyway, they hired a drummer, and he made it a little bit better. You should have heard it before the drummer got on there. It was like, oh my God. But it was a time period in my life, brother, Leandro. I felt like I'm a Christian. I'm a new Christian and I'm in with older Christians. I'm in with people who have more experience. I think I'm learning, and I should lend myself a little bit to the learning process. But from what I learned, I'm glad that my church is outside those doors, out in the woods. My church is where God is, in the creation and the beauty of what God has given us here.
And talking about the Grand Funk years, in just 5 years, you had 9 albums released. What are your memories of those early frenetic band years?
Well, I was 20 years old. Don Brewer was 20 years old. Mel Shocker was 19 years old when the band started in 1969. And Don and I both turned 21 in September. And Melvin turned 20 in December. So we were young people. But I thought, I was a big Beatles fan. And when they got into Sgt. Pepper, they got into, taking acid or doing things that it led me to believe, wow, these guys better watch what they're doing, because so many people love them. They might try something just because they say it in a song, and it might be a bad trip. So what I got from the Beatles and early on was to be careful what I say with my mouth in songs, and not to tease people or provoke them with things. I was against alcoholism, and I knew a lot of people who were alcoholics. And in this state of Michigan, marijuana is legal. But before it was legal, I used to sing Inside Looking Out, and I switched the words so that I was talking about pot. And I think that part of the reason that this state legalized it was my song, what I did with Inside Looking Out. And for that, I can't make any apologies. For me, it's better than the effect of alcohol that alcohol has had on the world. if everybody smoked pot, and we just laid back, hey, how you doing?
Whose idea was it to customize the albums? Example, the pluribus with the coin format, We're American Band in a gold edition, or 3D in shiny on.
That was Terry Knight. He hired people that did the album covers. And after Terry Knight, we had the Phoenix. That was the first one. But after Phoenix was when we had Lynn Goldsmith, who was more like our manager, a co-manager. She was very influential in what the band looked like. And she was the one that came to us and said, why don't you guys write a song about who you are? You're an American band. And so Brewer came to rehearsal and he had the lyrics and he played some 2-note chords and started singing American Band. I said, well, hey, listen, I hear it like this. And have the cowbell going. He says, I don't have a cowbell. I said, this song is begging for a cowbell. You got to have a cowbell. He says, okay, I'll stop and get one. I said, no, stop and pick up 6, and we will pick the best one that goes with this song, the one that fits it, that's in tune with it, because American Band is sung in the key of D. So we got the right cowbell, and you know, the song came alive. And with Todd Rundgren producing, it was the first time that we felt confident about the way the record sounded, the way we sounded in the grooves of those vinyl records. Said, wow, that sounds like the band now. It sounds more like we do on stage. And prior to that, all the albums that Terry Knight had produced, we weren't satisfied with the overall sound, even though it sounded good to us. It wasn't like us on stage, except for Grand Funk Live, that first album. And that was us, because it had the energy.
That album is amazing. Was my first experience with Grand Funk. When I heard the first time, I say, blow up my mind. It's awesome.
Awesome.
It's awesome. It's a pure energy about the beginning of the 70s. It's amazing.
Yes, thank you, Leon.
Talk about the producers, Mark. What was the experience to work, to have a job with a Frank Zappa and the good singing, good playing? Frank Zappa is a genius. How was the work with them?
Well, with Zappa, you know, people ask us, how did you pick? Why did you pick Frank Zappa? And we had everybody's name was in the hat, and we reached in the hat and pulled it out. You know, there it was, Frank Zappa. We went, oh my God, do you think he would even listen to us? He's such a great musician. And when the management called him and sent him some music that we were working on, he liked it. He liked what he was hearing. And he came to Michigan. And from, living in California, and it's contrary to the way we live in Michigan in the country. I lived on a farm. I had 190 acres, lots of land, and dogs and cats and horses, and we farmed. And so when he came, he was very surprised that the studio was down in the swamp. It was in a part of the property no one could see down there, and the driveway was like a snake, so nobody could just look down the driveway and see where we were. And we had a lot of songs. We had too many songs, as a matter of fact, for the vinyl disc that we were making. And Frank says, guys, there's too many songs here. We got to throw some out. I hate to do it because they're all good songs, He says, what about this song, Don't Let 'Em Take Your Gun? I said, that song is staying. And he's going, well, what? Don't get excited. He says, well, why do you want that song to stay? I said, because it's about the Second Amendment of the Bill of Rights to the Constitution of the United States, that we should never be denied the rights to keep and bear arms. It is necessary for the freedom of state. I said, Frank, what is it about the word necessary that you don't understand? He thought, oh my God. And I showed him the Constitution. I said, you read that. Tell me, what is there about necessary that you want to disqualify? And he said, nothing. He says, I never really knew this about the Constitution. I said, well, that's why that song has to stay. In fact, do you see that? Don't let them take your gun, right there. I wear that in honor of Frank, because Frank, he told me, I'm sorry, but I've never shot a gun before. I said, do you want to shoot a gun? He says, do you have a Dirty Harry? You know, the Clint Eastwood movie, Dirty Harry. I said, yeah, I've got a Dirty Harry. You want to shoot it? He said, yes, I want to shoot your gun. So I go over to the farmhouse and I get my Model 29 Smith & Wesson. It's a 44 Magnum, but I did not put Magnum shells in it. I used 44 Special. It's a lighter load. It doesn't, you know, really kick. And I showed Frank how to, you know, hold the gun, how to sight using the front sight and the back sight, how to squeeze the trigger very slowly, let it be a surprise. And he was dry firing with no ammunition in the gun. He was doing it. And I said, okay, now you got it. As long as that's a surprise, you're going to hit your target. And so we go outside and I said, I'll put a target up on the hill for you. He says, no, he said, put some cans out there, man. I want to do it like they do it in the movies, shooting some cans. So I put some cans up on the hill and Frank's out there and we're all, you know, in the parking lot. Everybody's got their fingers in their ears because when that gun goes off, it's a big boom. So we're standing there like this and Frank's got the earmuffs on and he pulls the trigger and he hits that can perfect right in the center. And he's got the gun like this and he turns around. He said, did you see that? And we're going, no, we're ducking. We're going, gun safety, Frank, gun safety. He was so excited that he hit the can and he joined the National Rifle Association here in the United States. It's an association that they fight for our gun rights and they you know, take court. They got attorneys that fight cases of extreme prejudice against gun ownership. And Frank became a member. And that, to me, that was worth, you know, getting Frank out here to Michigan because he learned something about the Constitution that he didn't know. And it's the truth. And it's part of what we are fighting for today, you guys. In this country, the retard that is called the president, the fake guy that's in the president office up there, he wants to take the guns away from us, but it's who he serves that he's trying to fulfill their wishes. And that's the families that own the Federal Reserve, the Central European banks, and the Bank of England. They control this country and so many countries around the world.
It's a crazy story about, yeah. you bring to us a crazy story, Mark. Awesome.
Yeah.
About.
Thank you.
Have you ever thought that you were the most important bands of rock in the music? If you think in the United States, but in the world, you influenced entire musicians, entire generation of the groups in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. You really know that it's great. It's a great band, as you think.
Yeah, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I went to Russia. I went to St. Petersburg, Russia. And I played with a band. They did my songs and I sang. But they were great musicians. And we played at the Ice Palace in St. Petersburg. It was a huge audience. It was wonderful to play with these younger musicians. And when it was all over and they knew we weren't going to be playing any more music together, they got me up and they said, "Brother Mark, please tell your people, we want peace. We want peace. We love your music. We love what you have to say in your songs. We are proud to be your musicians here in Russia. But tell your people, we want peace." That's what the music should be saying worldwide. You know?
That's the power of music.
That's the most powerful voice that we have today is, and we ever had, is the music. And in the 70s, Grand Funk was huge in the United States and almost the entire planet, except for some countries like here in Brazil. Why do you think that the band didn't do so well here?
Well, timing. You know, sometimes people are not ready for it. And it's just the advancement that music has taken. Sometimes music doesn't do what I would expect it to do. It you know, there's been all of this. The disco came in, and then there was the punk rock and all of this, and then finally there was some metal that came in the 80s, you know, and then the 90s, and the music has been, and I'll tell you why. Because the ownership of the radio stations has been changing hands. Here in America, in the United States, in 1996, Bill Clinton was president, and he signed the bill to deregulate the FCC. Before he deregulated, you could own 7 AM, 7 FM, 7 television stations. That's it. So it was in the hands of American families, moms and dads, grandmothers, grandfathers. They owned everything. There was a moral conscience over what our children were seeing and hearing. There was moral heart, God-fearing, God-loving people that controlled it. When they deregulated under the Clintons, it gave a monopoly to all these corporate conglomerates who have no regard for morals, as we have seen. So that is really the biggest tool that they've used against us. But somehow, you guys, music is coming back through. We still hang on to the good messages. We still hang on to the good beats, the stuff that moves our hearts. And this is why I am looking forward to coming back to Brazil, to rock the way God wants us to rock. And I move. I don't stand in one place because I can't. I got to move with that music, you know. That's part of the show, getting around that stage and feeling the vibrations, feeling that love, because people are there, you know, Brother Mark. It's for me, it is the fulfillment of my life to perform on stage. That is my country up there. If I come to Brazil, this country that I bring is love. That is the stage. That is my country. I take it to every country in the world that I've been to. And my fans know this. This is why they cheer me on. This is why they sing the words to my songs. And I remain humbly devoted to my fans.
And so we have this question. Why did the band break up in 77? Yeah.
76, actually.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Don Brewer came to rehearsal. He was 1.5 hours late. And he had never been late for anything. He walked in late. He looked at us and he says, "I'm over it. I'm done." And we looked like, "What are you saying?" He says, "I have to find something that is more stable to do with my life." And he walks out. And that was it. I followed him on. I said, "Are you kidding? Are you joking? You're calling it? You're breaking up the band?" He says, "Yes." So he got in his car and went away. I got on my phone. I called my brother Ricky. I called Dennis Bellinger. I called Rick Baker. I called some people that I knew were good players. And I said, "Listen, Grand Funk just broke up, but I don't want to stop playing. I want to keep playing my music. Can you guys come and help me?" And they said, "Yeah, brother Mark, we're with you. We'll be there with you. You say where and when, and we'll be there." So we started practicing, and that's when I did my solo career from, as you referred to, Sylvia, the 1977. That was when I came out with the first solo Mark Farner solo album on Atlantic, when it was I was on a white horse, just sitting there. Yeah.
It sounds so similar to the Grand Funk. It's almost the same stuff.
yeah, because it's the same guy writing it.
It's the soul. It's the soul of the man.
In that Mark, in that album, in that first album solo, has some stuff about the Grand Funk, that the religious material, or not? It's just the beginning. You begin to write in from beginning.
That was it was stuff that I would have taken to the band, but because there was no band to take it to, I got guys who could play, and Dick Wagner, the guitar player for Alice Cooper, he was my producer, and we recorded the bed tracks at the swamp at the farm in Michigan, and then we did all the vocals and the overdubs at Nimbus 9 in Canada, in Toronto, Canada, and finished it up there. But we used Bob Babbitt from Motown on bass, Bob Kulick on guitar, Al Watton on drums, and I can't think of the keyboard player right now. Oh God! But great musicians. Oh my God! It was a wonderful experience for me to record that, and then to do No Frills in New York City with Jimmy Iovine. He was the producer, and Shelly Akis was the engineer, and we had a guy that played with Sly and the Family Stone on drums, and it was Dennis Bellinger and myself putting out the three-piece, and that was more the style that the Grand Funk was, a three-piece. But without having the same people, you're never going to get the same sound. The only three people in the world that can make the Grand Funk sound is me, Don Brewer, and Mel Shocker. No other people, no other, I don't care how good they are, they cannot sound that way, cannot make that sound. It's impossible.
Was a brotherhood. Yeah.
That's right, brother. Absolutely.
So we are coming to the final, the last questions, Mark. It's we have a lot of questions to do with you, but we will do it here 3-4 hours. We don't have the time. You have a lot of good stories to talk to us, but I want to finish with a question that I ask to our guests. What's the 3 best albums of all time for you?
Electric Ladyland, Jimi Hendrix, the English version, and the songs, the way they came to, I felt every note that Hendrix was playing. He was singing, he was crying, he was shouting with that guitar. He had the control like no one ever had. And he's still my most favorite guitar player. That, I think, Motown, there's an album that contains music from Little Stevie Wonder, from Aretha Franklin, from the Four Tops, from the Temptations, from Martha and the Vandellas. There's just a lot of Motown music, because that really influenced my playing. It influenced my rock and roll. I love to dance, and they made me dance. Motown made me dance. So I love that compilation album of Motown. And I gotta think about the third one. I would have to say Closer to Home, Grand Funk Railroad, because God gave me this song, Closer to Home. I prayed, and our faithful Creator gave me the words and the music. So I can't complain about that.
Oh, that's so sweet to hear. That is the most, I guess, the most heartwarming answer that we had till now, right? Oh, that's so sweet. So thank you so much, Mark, for having us today. And I hope you enjoyed the work we will be doing here with what you said. And I hope you really enjoy your vacation here in Brazil, your work in Brazil. And
Awesome.
thank you so much again.
Aw, thank you so much, Sylvia and Leandro. God bless you, my brother.
God bless you.
Bless you. Thanks to Melissa. My thanks to that interview. Was the best interview we did so far.
Awesome.
It's amazing. It'll be a lot of you. He come back more often. Come back to Brazil often.
He must be there now for a barbecue.
Okay.
See ya.
Thanks.
Okay.
See you.
God bless.
God bless.